Got one attendee in here. Hello, nil test. We'll be waiting for others to join, so sit tight, grab yourself some water. Want to make my mouse a little easier for you guys to see. Perfect. So we'll just give other attendees a few minutes to join in, as I stated earlier, for anyone that joined in the meantime. So find yourself a cozy seat and some water, and we'll get started shortly. Doing some tests here. If anybody notices that the mouse is pretty slow, let me know. I think there's a comment section. We definitely have a question section, so you can communicate that way. I usually give until 05 there, so we'll give them a couple minutes, whoever, any stragglers. Doesn't seem like we have the biggest flow of attendees coming in, so might as well get started. These sessions are recorded, so you'll find them all over the place on our websites and on our blogs and stuff. So keep an eye out for the posting of that recording. I just want to run you guys through run you through the agenda of the day. So it's the topic of this webinar is really the updates in the last few months for Evolia. As you can see, I split it up between our more workforce management, more scheduling features, and our recruitment. And precisely in these two sections. So you can see there's new configurations we brought that are somewhat new features or just improved workflows. And as you can see, we'll go through the shift swaps, timesheets, premiums, and customizable job statuses, which could be really handy for particular use cases. And then afterwards, we'll jump into the more recruiting side of things. And then, as you can see, we'll go over the personalized career portal, which some of you might know of already. It's kind of like a white label for our map, but it'll be your team, maybe not team, but your company colors, your logos and everything, and the candidates will only see your job offers. So could be very interesting. We'll go over the details once we get to that section. And then we've added, you might also know already, because we've kept the prompts up and make sure that we alert you guys when these features come out, but pre-selection questions as well. Very, very interesting feature for the recruiting aspect of our software. So that's the last thing here, except for the shift view, which is somewhat new, but yeah, it's a very neat, very handy way of just tracking all your candidates that funnel in through the interactive map that we've got for you guys. So with no further ado, I believe we have one new attendee that I didn't notice earlier, so feel free to use the question section. That will be how we will be able to communicate. So here's the agenda. I just went over it, and then we'll dive into it. So let me just toss this over here. And quick little zoom out. Perfect. All right, so first things first, the shift swaps. Very neat feature here. We already had shift swaps in Evolia, but we've enhanced or improved the workflow, I should say. So where you'll find these settings will be really in your schedules and availabilities. And this will be where you'll be able to set how you want this module or setting to react, basically. I think I'm at 100% zoom. Once again, use the comment section or questions to let me know if you can't see, but I'll zoom in this way, if anything. What you're seeing here, the new swap settings that we've enabled or uploaded to the system. If ever this action or this procedure isn't active, we've included a little hyperlink here, so it'll bring you to the setting section in permissions. So of course, if this isn't active, you won't have the access to what we were just looking at. Going back to that schedule page, we'll come down here and look at the new settings, because the first settings we just saw, right? First of all, enabling the swaps. Second of all, if you want an approval for the swap, our old settings, these are what's new here. So swap with respect to the maximum hours per week. System won't show any, I guess, eligible shifts to swap if it would include an overtime for one of those two parties, right? So the two members of the team, if one of them would go into overtime, it won't show that option for a swap. So you're going to be backing yourself up to avoid overtime. Allow swaps between employees who do not work at the shift position. So this is really based on our structure, right? Usually we'll have only the eligible shifts for a swap being the same team, position, location to respect the qualification that you're looking for. If ever you would want to allow for different positions to cover each other, depends on the structure of your team, of course, you'll be able to enable that. If ever it is not something that's enabled, we give you this additional option. So being that you're only swapping within that same position now, remember that this is not enabled, you can keep it within the same position, but have a bit more of a criteria, apologies for my zoom in, which would be referring to the stars. So we could have stars in the employee profiles based on their performance. It could be on their seniority. It's really to the discretion of the user and how we set up the account. But this can make it so that the employees can only switch with someone that's at the same level of them, essentially, or an equivalent score -1, as you can see, 2, 3, 4. So we'll dive into the employee profile quickly just to show you where that star system is, because of course, if I'm referring to it and we aren't aware of it, it doesn't do anybody much help. So just before we go into the next section, which will be the premiums, our timesheets, sorry, looking at the wrong agenda, we'll go into Mark's calendar or profile, I should say, and you'll see here how he might have more than one qualification. The way we set this up is just when we onboard them, he has a sales training. But if ever it would have been a completely different position, let's say he can have 2 different scores, being a better sales rep compared to back when he was in training, or however you want to set this up, right? So it's just a different way to prioritize who gets invitations when we're talking about invitation rules. And as we just saw, our swap feature can take this into consideration as well. So that's what we've got for you guys when it comes to the shift swaps. Timesheets will be the next feature to dive into. This one could seem a little small and simple, but has a lot of value to it. When we go into an employee's timesheet now, what you'll see on the top right of your screen is this next button. Before we couldn't go from one employee to the next, so now we can just simply approve and go to the next employee if this is your preferred procedure, right? Staying within the detailed format of an individual's timesheet. So very neat. More to come with this kind of workflow, right? Remembering where you are. So if I would come out of Jessica's name, making sure that I'm at Jessica's name in this list will be, the eventuality of the next updates. So small but mighty, I would say, because it is very time saving. I guess you can put it that way. So while we're in timesheets, I like to link it this way. So timesheets also kind of has a lot to do with premiums. We've added a new way of having our premiums affect automatically, or I guess you can say how it will apply to the individual or set of individuals you want it to. So going into my payroll settings, I can now go into shift premiums, which was already there. I've got a bunch of these already set up, no need to create a new one, but let's say this weekend shift premium, or actually, let's say Yeah, weekend shift premium. It's not really the biggest deal for the example. Whatever the name is, all these stayed the same. So let's just do a quick zoom in. Of course, you can change these categories for anyone that might not have ventured off into this premium page, but you can change how this rule will calculate and how much we will, I guess, influence the hourly rate. If ever we need integration codes, we'll have them down there. The new feature that was added is in this application, right? So how it will apply. Usually we'll have just a rule maybe for all the team, but if you have different rules for different departments or different union rules for different teams, you can have this set where beforehand you could only have different criteria set to maybe like a shift swap or a replacement or a standby shift, and then having different employee statuses being the rule for affecting. But we can now add it to a specific member. So sometimes, we have one employee that's outranking everybody in seniority and he's got a specific rule or whatever the case might be. It just allows you to tag different rules for different employees or different sets of employees, of course, because we can select more than one. So that's completely new. It was already available in different kind of automated application rules. We just simply added it to this premium rule here to answer that need there. So I'll take this off because my weekend premium applies to the entirety of my team. Should be good. Next up on the list, customizable job statuses. Really neat feature. I was pretty excited about this one because it allows you to have just a more of a personal work environment when it comes to your team. If I go into just a quick view here, I'm very detail oriented and very visual, so I like to show everything as I explain there. But as you see, I'm sure most of you know, employment status, we still do have a list of preset statuses, right? We've received a request to have our own personalized statuses, so we have answered with this section here in organizational structure, employment statuses. So going into this subsection of the organizational structure, give my screen share some time to load up. I think it's good on your side, but not on my side, which is interesting. Going into my employment statuses, excuse me, you'll see, of course, the ones that are already created. If ever you want to edit one, of course, keep in mind that if ever they're on somebody's account, it'll affect that. And then you could simply add your own, give it a name, earning code if needed, English and French, of course. That's why it's giving me a red flag here. And then you save it. And you'll have it in that drop-down menu in the employee file and have your own respective titles if that's something that you would like to have. Once again, these are things that once you pull reports, you can see these statuses depending on the report you export, I should say. So that's the 4 main modules and features and workflows that we added when it comes to the workforce management side of things, more scheduling. Of course, recruitment does tie into this because once your candidate turns into an employee, he will be affected by all these new changes. So keep that in mind and keep your eyes open for the next features as discussed, more updates to come on the timesheets and so on. So diving in to a bit more of the recruitment side of the updates, recruitment gives you quite a few options now when it comes to different views on how your candidates come in and different questions that you can add to an offer. So going through that just rather quickly. For the settings, I don't want to bore anybody if anybody's already set it up, but basically if your account isn't set up for recruiting, make sure to go into the recruitment settings in your settings, add your website URL, make sure that you have the right industry tag so that way it shows and then they can filter, the candidates get to filter by industry when they're searching for jobs. And then a nice little about us, never hurt anybody. So add that. And then make your way down this this subsection, I guess, list. It was always a good idea to go through it at least once and then keep it updated. But basically the next section will be pre-screening section, pre-screening questions, which is the most recent update, really the big one. So when you add your job offer now, you can add questions already pre-selected, pre-created. As you can see here, you can either add a new one that we have as suggestions. This is French. You have the English one as well. But of course, we have a free text, right? So it's as you wish. It can be a lot more personalized, a lot more to the specific need that you might have to fill. So very, very neat feature there. This ensures that your candidate isn't just available for the shift you have to offer. You can ensure now that before unlocking him or her, they will be qualified for what you have to offer. So a lot of value coming in with this feature here. I'll show you how this applies afterwards, but this is of course the creation page. The only next step before we save is these key features. So of course, sorry about that zoom, what's your ideal answer? And then afterwards, if it's a must-have or if it's a nice-to-have. All very important, because afterwards when we have the answers come in with our locked candidate sheet, before unlocking, you'll see the percentage of answers being ideal in both columns, being must-have and nice-to-have, so you can make better decisions on who you unlock before unlocking, obviously. So that's how that works. Pre-selection questions, and this, very important to state, isn't only on the job offers that you will plan and create, it's also something that you can set if you have spontaneous applications. We're going to jump the publication settings just for now, but going to the second section down here, our spontaneous applications can be set up per location. So if you have different entities or different branches, you can be looking out for candidates in those different entities, and then you can have the option to accept, I'm gonna have to turn it off because this is a live account, but accept a spontaneous application, being that even if you're not specifically looking for anybody, candidates can send over their resumes and then of course answer your list of pre-selected questions, pre-screening questions. So once you are ready to look and fill positions internally, you'll have a bank of candidates that are most likely qualified because they'll be filling these questions that you have set up. So let me just X this out before a candidate applies on my fake account. Don't want to be giving anybody false hopes like that. But this is also a very neat feature, so that way you don't necessarily have to manage the shifts you have uploaded or posted. You'll have those candidates just flowing in. We jumped this, but just to show you, on the scheduling side of things, when you create a shift with a recurrence, you can have this enabled by default so that when you create it, it'll automatically publish on the recruiting platform. Just a little FYI, it's really as you wish. It could save you some time if you mainly want to use the schedule to publish on the recruiting platform. Last but not least, our personalized career portal. So this was already available prior to this last little update session that we had, or I guess a few months that we've had, but we've enhanced it basically. So we've given you a lot more features, a lot more options here. So enabling it will of course give you the drop down. The link you have here will really bring you to, mine probably won't be the best example because it's a demonstration account, but it's going to show you the white label version of your map. So I should have planned this better for you guys. It should be our team colors, but I think you get the point where you'll have your own logo. This one, of course, Evolia, it's our map anyway, but if I zoom in, you'll see that there are no shifts here because this is only the shift that my account is offering. It's white labeled to me, compared to if I would go on our live marketplace, which no longer has that red ugly color and is now just Evolia's live marketplace. You can see all these shifts that are available once they load up there, right? So it's a different way of having a different way of funneling candidates to your job offers. And this, as one can see, it's a basic URL. So we invite you to put it on your company page, funnel your own candidates through your own web page. And the way it works, it's detailed through our contracts and all the information online. And for sure, don't be shy to inquire with our team. But how it works is if ever they create their account, their candidate account through your white label. So if they open this link, or I'm about to explain this, but go through your QR code and create their first account on your white label, then that way you won't have to pay for that candidate, right? There won't be an unlocked fee. It'll be your generated traffic. So always worth keeping that open somewhere on your website to have at least, a couple free candidates from the module we have here. So keep that in mind. And then of course, on top of having that link on your website, we also have this QR code. So this is very neat because you can have it physically in store or at the location that you would be, making it public that you are looking for new candidates. They scan this, it brings them to that map, and then they can apply for jobs that you have open. So once again, we can request, well, maybe not once again, didn't go over it yet, but you can have your own QR code, of course, but even request personalized ones that'll be to your industry, your logos, all that stuff. Our team is behind this and make it, and we aim to make it very, very interactive and targeted to that new demographic and have a very high level of engagement for these candidates. So we'll leave it at that, but if ever you have any questions, we do have that contact page. I think if I show it there, if I open my my Evolia account, not account, but website, don't be shy. Whether it's our sales team, whether it's our CS team, customer service team, we're there to help out for anything. Whether it's setting up the account, setting up the white label, you name it, we're there to help out. So don't hesitate for this. So that would be the concluding fact of my settings part of the recruitment. The last thing, of course, change your logo and all that. I just don't want to do it because once again, having this open it's just misleading because it's a live account. But change your logos, change your colors, and you'll have a nice, pretty area to funnel your own candidates. So that concludes settings for the recruitment. Not normally the most entertaining part going through settings, but it's of course the back end of everything, right? It's the core. It's very important. So thanks for bearing with me. Last little thing, much more on the user interface. So when you guys will be receiving these candidates, of course, we have this initial view that's always been available in the candidate view. So when they come in, you'll see, of course, their name. If they're locked, you'll see how they come in like this. I think these ones don't have questions, unfortunately. I'll show you just a few in a moment. But basically, when you see a locked candidate, you'll see what they've included. So if they've attached a CV, obviously can't see it yet because that would defy the whole purpose of having the locked feature, but you will be able to see their questions. So I'll show you that in just a moment. This is that basic initial view, maybe not basic, but initial view. We've added this recruitment shift. Sorry, my mic was too close to my mouth. So added recruitment shifts here and as a tab. So how this works is no longer by candidate, it'll be by shift you have out there. So once again, let me just actually switch right now to my staging one because as I said, I can't have these open for anybody to go in. Being that it's a live environment and we don't want to mislead any candidates. We want to keep it as valuable for employers as well as for candidates, right? So if they're seeing a bunch of fake offers, that's not interesting for anybody. So let me just show you here what I want to show you because it will help you visualize it. I just didn't want to, there you go. So this is what we've got here. If I go into this account here that I could play around a bit more and test stuff out, what you're seeing is, of course, a lot of locked candidates and their answers to those pre-screening questions before you unlock, right? So you can see the percentages of their ideal questions in each column being must have and nice to have. If I were to press on one of these, you'll see here, same info as earlier, right? They added their attached CV. They might not have added a note anymore because guess what? They already added their answers. So you'll see at least how qualified they are to your specific need before unlocking that candidate profile. And then of course, simply add your credit card information and then you'll have that contact information and you kickstart your hiring process right away. Might not be new, but might as well mention it. I think it's worth it. Our ATS, the applicant tracking system that we created and included as a module here, lets you guide them through the progression of their hiring process. What's really nice also is once you hit that hiring stage, it'll ask you, hey, are we creating this employee in Evolia? Put him back down to screening this guy. So it's very sweet. Of course, we have access to export these, right? So if ever you need to export this into an Excel sheet, feel free to do so. The eventuality will be, pushing this into different systems. So you can link all your already existing ATS systems with a funnel like this, right? To increase a new funnel of candidates instead of relying on the standards that we're used to. So that's it for what we've got on the agenda. I'll open the floor for questions, so feel free to rocket fire them away. I'm also going to show you something a bit more granular and a bit more nitty gritty. And And it's really just because we spoke of swaps. And please, I'm basically just adding stuff here. So if there's questions, go ahead and we will address them. But this is an employee's account, so felt like it could be worth showing. We've added a new field or box, I guess you could call it, in their dashboard. So of course, on web and on mobile. Unfortunately, can't show you mobile on the GoToWebinar. But basically, once they click this, Mark Hunt here was invited to a swap. So I was on my phone with a different employee, requested a shift swap. We just saw the parameters. So depending on how they were set up, he might be a specific score or the exact same position, and so on. It first went to my manager for approval because I require an approval for these kinds of requests. He approved it, and now Mark gets the notification saying, hey, Jessica wants to swap with you. Are you interested? If she would have selected more than one of my shifts, it would have given me the selection which one I want to swap with her. No problem, this is the one. I show my interest, and then it's going to give me one little final warning, being that this swap has already been approved by our supervisor. The last person that needs to confirm is Jessica. Simply being that Jessica might have other people that are interested in the swap with different offerings. So she's going to get that bank of information, all those raised hands like we're used to, right? All the open shifts and all the replacements. And then she's going to decide who she wants to swap with. Simple as that. If I finalize it, might as well, since we're waiting for questions. What we're getting here is basically on my end, Jessica's answering. I know you guys can't see this, but I'll show you the end effect here. Based on my rules, she was just warned, hold on a second, we need a last approval. So once again, it's all custom. If this is too many back and forths for the manager and you just want to approve one time, just have to head on over to the settings and change that. If I take off, this is the staging one, so let's get out of here. If I go into here now in my dashboard, we did not add a swap specific field for the managers. We have it here though in the request to approve. So you can see that final check here. So these are the two shifts that are going to be exchanged. Once you approve, once again, you'll have that history, right? So it's the same thing as the replacements. If you're used to that module, the system is set up in a way so that it always gives you the details of what has happened to this shift. So if I scroll down to my sales team here, you'll see here, it should be this one, Friday, yeah. You see that it's grayed out in Jessica's column or schedule, and then in Mark's schedule, you'll see that very clearly both pictures are there. It's just a screen share, give it a quick second here. Both pictures are there. Mark has the assigned shift, and you can even see and read it out loud, right? Mark Hunt replaces Jessica Tremblay. So it just makes a lot of sense, and it's very easy to follow through. So that's basically the whole swap feature and that we went over, and how you'll have it set up will be, of course, specific to your needs, but a lot of options there. So we'll leave it at that. I'm still going to give you 2 or 3 minutes for a question or questions. Not so much activity in that area, but we'll let it open just in case. Leave it open just in case. Close this here. Should be good to go. If anything, I'll double check my agenda to make sure I didn't leave anything out. But yeah, went over shift swaps, timesheets, the premium application to the individual employee, job statuses, and then of course everything having to do with recruiting. So I'll leave it at that. I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll slowly make my way to closing the webinar. So I thank all of you for attending. And once again, it will be posted online. So the recording, I mean, so if ever you need to share it with others, feel free to do so.